What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason Leung, and in today's video I want to talk about a couple of things that happen when you become a karate black belt. So if you guys are ready, let's get right into it. About 12 years ago, I got my black belt in Shotokan karate, first degree black belt. I was about 18 at the time. You know, to make a long story short, black belt has its pros and it has its cons. Today I just want to focus on a few things that are maybe a bit unexpected about becoming a black belt, and you guys can interpret that in your own way as well. Don't get me wrong, becoming a black belt is totally satisfying. You feel badass, like you look cooler having the black belt around your waist, and you get to learn a bunch of cool new things. Let me just say that there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to being a black belt. So the first thing, guys, when you become a black belt, yeah, maybe you have been waiting for that day. You had a hard fought, earned test and you passed. Hooray, congratulations. Then comes the next day. After the celebration, after, the success, then reality kicks in. What often happens when you become a black belt? I'd say the first thing is you get more responsibility. A lot of schools, being the one that I came from as well, they offered me a assistant teaching position, and being the young kid that I was, and looking forward to teaching, I said, hey, why not? And so yeah, I started teaching. That's how I got started. My school put me on as one of the instructors there. So yeah, as soon as I started teaching, I got into a schedule, a routine of about teaching 3 to 5 times a week. And keep in mind, I was going to college as well. I just graduated high school. I was going to community college, and I was also getting another part-time job in school district as well. And I think there was a time where I was teaching karate. I had a retail job at the mall. I was doing tutoring in the school district, and I was also training karate myself as well. So I was busy and stretched as far as I could. So with the responsibility, I'd say, this is something you should expect or possibly prepare for. And maybe if you're not like ready to teach, or you're not like, if you don't feel comfortable teaching kids yet, or adults or whatever, or lower ranks, then that's just a conversation you need to be very transparent with your instructor. Don't just like say yes to whatever they say, because at the end of the day, it's not your school, it's their school, and they're asking you to volunteer or teach. So that's just one thing, a little bit more responsibility when you become a black belt. Second thing I want to talk about is when you become a black belt, there's actually more pressure on you. You might think that once you achieve, the black belt, that it's kind of like, oh, I did it, I'm done, I'm finished, I beat the game, I went to the highest level. But in reality, it's not the highest level at all. It's just like you barely scratched the surface. And getting black belt is just like you just have a understanding of the basics at this point. So what I mean by more pressure is that when people see the color black around your waist, they're going to assume that you are higher level. They're going to assume that you know more than them, that you have something to offer them. So this in turn, it at least made me like watch kind of like how I carried myself, all my actions around my classmates, my students, my teachers. There's just like more eyes on you in a sense, as opposed to like if you're a white belt, like no one's really paying attention. But as soon as you get the black belt around your waist, your teachers are going to be asking for more help. Your lower ranked classmates, kids or students are going to be asking for more help. Parents are going to be asking you questions. So in this case, in this sense, there's a bit more pressure on you to kind of perform or give back. And not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody's ready for that type of pressure, for that type of responsibility, because actually in a lot of schools, like they don't prepare you for like a leadership role. Kind of you're just kind of like a yes man, us type of person until you reach that stage. So you're just kind of getting used to following directions rather than, assuming a leadership role. But I'd say the more years you stick with it, and if you decide to go down that teaching path and you want to stay black belt and you want to give back to your school, it gets easier over time and it gets more fulfilling and rewarding. But it's definitely not for everybody, I'd say. The third thing that might happen when you become a black belt, especially if you're younger, is you're gonna get bored. You might feel like you've plateaued, like you've stagnated, like you stopped going up and stopped progressing. I feel like new black belts get this feeling because in their minds, in the way media has fed us this information, is that when you're black belt, you're badass, like you get superpowers, like you can take on the world. But in reality, at least in Shotokan or possibly in other karate styles, black belt is just a surface level. Like I said, it's just like you understand the basics, and actually you have much more to learn. You end up kind of having more questions and answers at that stage. So, in a young kid's mind, if they were to reach black belt in a early adulthood, 18, 19 years old, they might think, I spent all those years trying to get my black belt, and now like there's so much more to learn. I thought I learned everything. So kids around that age, especially if they're going off to school, going to college, a lot of them will end up quitting. And I've seen this so many times. Once kids get their black belt, kids, teens, adults, once they get their black belt, it's like a 4 to 6 months before they're out the door. They're just over it because, in a lot of ways, a black belt will be practicing the same moves as a white belt. But the thing is, not many people realize that there's levels to the practice. So you can have a white belt and a black belt on the same row, and they're both doing like a basic punch in standing position, but you can see the difference. Not many people though will wrap their heads around that fact and just think, oh, I'm still doing oizuki, I'm still doing a basic punch like this white belt, but I'm a black belt. Like, why am I still doing this? You have to kind of cognitively reframe your perspective if that happens. If you want to keep going, especially if you want to keep going, you can't think like, why am I doing the same as him or her? You have to think, okay, we're doing the same thing, but how can I refine my technique? At this stage, if you're a black belt and you choose to continue, it's not really about learning more. It's about refining your technique. It's about sharpening things up, tightening up your stances, just making sure everything is on point and accurate, precise. Whereas if you're a white belt, you're just learning moves, you're just throwing hands and extremities around. But black belt is where you really tie it all together. And unfortunately, because of the boredom, because they think they stagnated, plateaued, a lot of people will end up leaving before they enter into this like beginner mindset again. And this can be a hard pill to swallow, especially if your ego is involved. Like, you can't think I have a black belt and I'm the best of the best. You always want to have that beginner mindset if you do want to continue forward. Fourth thing I wanted to talk about is, I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that you're going to have a lot more questions than answers. Because when you are a student, kind of white belt going through the ranks, at least from my school and how my personality was coming up, I wasn't really a talkative student. I wasn't really kind of inquisitive. I kind of took everything as it was, and I just, did everything they told me to do. And once I finally became a black belt, kids, students, parents, they were asking me questions about why are we doing this, or what's the best way to do that. And often I wouldn't have really thought about that. I haven't really thought about any of those yet. So I too was having a lot of questions. Now, this is where this type of situation can make or break you if you do want to pursue karate as a black belt, because if you just say like, I don't know, or you kind of shell up, you're not going to grow. So if you want to move forward on the path, you have to kind of go deep in your mind and ask yourselves these questions and start formulating your own answers or hypotheses, in a sense. And again, not everyone is, willing, not everyone is capable, not everyone wants to go that deep, especially if they have a job, if they have, relationships, school to think about. Because I'd say most people will get their black belt around young adulthood, and that's a period of time where there's a lot of change in one's life. And, going deep in a realm that is possibly not even paying you, and you're just expected to give without anything. Not people have kind of like the metal, the stomach for that. But for me at the time, I was so passionate into martial arts. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to, give the best and be the best I could. So I read books, I studied different martial arts, YouTube, in my community college, I was doing a whole bunch of different martial arts, Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, Muay Thai, kickboxing. I just wanted to see the bigger picture. And when you become a black belt first degree, you only see a piece. That's when you can start like formulating a general picture, but you don't see the whole thing yet. You will see a bigger picture, broaden your perspective. The more you study, the more you inquire. But that's, work outside of the dojo oftentimes. And again, not many people that I've seen throughout the years are willing to go down that route, because it's like a rabbit hole and can be very consuming in one's life if you're not prepared or you don't know how to manage your time properly. So the fifth and final thing I want to talk about, and obviously there's a lot more, these are just general things I wanted to bring to the table today. So the fifth thing that might happen, that may potentially happen when you become a black belt, is you get imposter syndrome. Let me explain what imposter syndrome means. So when I became a black belt, and I had this pressure on me, I had more responsibility, I have to now teach, I have to give my knowledge. Sometimes you will feel like, why are these people listening to me? Like I myself don't even have all the answers. Like how am I to give this person knowledge? I'm not even my teacher. My teacher is like better than me, something like that. So you would have a lot of self-doubt, or at least I did. And I think that's expected, and it comes with the territory. Over time, though, if you push through it, fight through those struggles, you begin to feel more confident and comfortable in your own skin. Because when you do get black belt, it is kind of like you're wearing someone else's shoes. Like your teacher literally gave you a new rank that is supposed to embody and resemble, technical excellence, to embody knowledge and mastery. But I will be the first person to tell you back then that I was not a master. I was not excellent. I didn't know everything there was to know. And, I'm pretty sure this happens to a lot of people, and a lot of people at this point, I'm sure, and I've seen, just choose to quit or walk away if they get this sort of imposter syndrome. For me, I kind of just embraced it all at that point, because I had, when I was young, I wanted to be like a UFC fighter. I just want to be a professional martial artist, like a Donnie Yen, like a Bruce Lee. So I just embraced it all. So when I was feeling like unworthy, like Thor, am I still worthy? So when I was feeling unworthy, I would do everything I could. I read books. I tried to, collaborate with different karate schools. I even coached the karate club at the university I was at for a couple of years. And one thing that I did purposefully, intentfully, was to compete. I was thinking that how can I, give my knowledge if I haven't even really tested to see if any of this stuff works. So I would go out and compete at almost every karate tournament, local, regional, and regional is about the highest I got. I didn't compete like on a national level or international, and I'll tell you why just in a little bit. So yeah, I was just assuming the beginner's mindset, the warrior mindset. I should just go out there, compete, leave it all out there, learn as much as I can, and stay humble. And for a lot of people will not put themselves, on the line, risk their ego, their status, public humiliation. They won't do that. And for me, I was willing to, get embarrassed. I was willing to lose, look bad, if it meant gaining experience. And believe me, it did. I got so much experience competing, teaching, collaborating with different martial artists over the years, that it's just led me to a solid, perspective and a comfortable feeling in my own skin as a 4th degree black belt. So this brings us to the question, like, why I don't really compete anymore, at least in karate. And let me just say, the last time I competed was in 2015, and this was at like a big, regional tournament. People who placed here at that tournament, who got ranked there, were able to go on to a national level and perhaps international. And it was through the ISKF karate organization, one of the big ones aside from JKA, SKIF. So it was an ISKF tournament, and I did both kata and kumite there. I remember in my kata group, the adult men's kata black belt division, there's about like 15, 16 people there, perhaps 20. We're all standing in the line, everyone's doing their katas. I chose to do kata gankaku, the white crane, and I came in second that day, but I placed above one of the nationally ranked competitors there, and then I only came second to the brother of the nationally ranked competitor. And the guy who took first, he's just like a well-known figure in the ISKF organization. So I was not disappointed or unhappy about that at all. But basically, that just kind of showed me that, okay, we got these medals, we got these trophies, but for what? We're not even really getting paid to do any of this. It's just a way for the schools to make money. I mean, I wasn't getting too political about that, but I just felt like at that point, if I'm ranking, alongside nationally ranked people, internationally ranked people, I asked myself, do I really want to see how far this can go? And for me, I didn't feel like I had much anything else to prove. If I can be at the same level or even better than these people here, I can do it anywhere else. And so I also did kumite that day, the sparring, the men's adult black belt sparring, and I had 5 matches that day. A lot of the matches, the guys were 6'5", tall, big, and strong. And to my surprise, I got locked in. I got zoned in, dialed in, and I won all 5 of my matches. And for the final match, it was against the guy who was internationally ranked, and I beat him clean in Shobu Ippon, 2 solid points. And that to me just solidified everything. And the proprietor of that tournament told me, next year you got to come back to defend your title. But I never had the urge to do that, because I just felt like, for what? I mean, okay, say I defend it, I win or I lose, and it's just like a never-ending cycle. So I felt like, for me, it was unrewarding at the time. I felt like it was better to share the knowledge that I was learning, that I was gaining through those experiences. which kind of led me to opening up my own school through the San Francisco Park and Rec. So I had that from about 2016 to 2019. Met so many kids, so many students there, and it was a blast. It was a good experience for me. And yeah, so that opening that school and that program through the City Park and Rec also led me to starting the YouTube channel. Initially, I wanted to just make tutorials so I can show the kids, so I wouldn't have to, you know, give everyone a one-on-one lesson. I thought it was more efficient to just have like a tutorial online that everyone can have access to. And those videos ended up being the foundation of this channel now, and which is why I'm here still talking to you guys today. I didn't want to be like kind of like pessimistic or down about becoming a black belt. I just wanted to share that experience with you guys. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of positives and benefits, but here were 5 things you might have not would have otherwise expected. So yeah guys, if you watched till the very end, you guys are the real MVPs. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Os.